KBGG Hayes, 88.1 KRTT Great Bend, 88.1 KVDM Hayes, 89.1 KGOH Colby, and 107.3 K297AI Hill City. My name is Allison Ochoa, and I am your host for the first day of this year's Carathon, or this spring's Carathon, rather. The theme that we are operating under for this week is Behold, I Make All Things New. This spring, our Carathon goal is $125,000, and we've made a good dent in that, but we would love to have your donation to help us make our meet our goal and keep these airwaves going and being able to spread the gospel through Divine Mercy Radio. If you would like to make a donation in any amount, please give us a call at 785 621 4110. Again, it's 785 621 4110. You can also donate online at dvmercy.com. We did start the day with $30,150 in matching funds, and we still have a significant portion of that available. So please just make your donation today, and then you'll essentially double your donation to our radio station. Again, we appreciate donations in any amount. If someone wants to, donate that a full $30,000, we would gladly take that. But if you can afford $10, we'll take that with a lot of gratitude as well. So please, again, give us a call and help us make a dent in those matching funds. All of those individuals giving $250 or more will be entered into a drawing that will take place at the end of the week for one of the following raffle prizes. We have a Bose portable smart speaker donated by Dave and Janet Schmidt, owners of Dave's Auto Repair in Hayes. Dave and Janet also donated 2 custom handmade cutting boards, and so you could win one of those. We also have a pair of ladies' yellow 14-karat stud earrings, it's 0.88 carat total weight. That's donated by Dustin and Lainey Rose, owners of Diamond R Jewelry in Hayes. We have a handmade ladder rosary donated by Dora Liker of Munger, a $150 gift certificate to Big E Meats donated by Stephen and Melissa Biggie of Hayes, a $100 gift certificate to Hickok Steakhouse in Hayes, donated by Oscar Runyon, Greg Whitehair, and Damon Hoare owners. All $500 donors will be entered into the drawing for one of those Carathon gifts. Plus, they will receive a 60-second spot that they can use to celebrate any special occasion, whether that is a loved one's birthday, a baptism, a wedding, an anniversary, or anything that you'd like to commemorate. All individuals giving $1,000 or more will be given the things that we just mentioned a few minutes ago. Plus, they will receive 2 tickets to the annual banquet, which will be held Saturday, September 12th in Hayes. That banquet will feature Teresa Tomio, who is going to be our guest speaker, and she is the host of Catholic Connections. Again, our Carathon theme is Behold, I Make All Things New. So if you want to give us a call and give us a pledge to help support the radio station, please give us a call at 785-621-4110. You can also use that number if you have a question for our on-air guest, and you can text that question to 621-4110. We have a number of different options in terms of being able to support the radio station, whether that is through monthly giving. We also have our NFP, or Never Forget plan, which allows you to sign up for a monthly withdrawal from your credit or checking account. You can also listen a number of ways. So if you're driving in the car and you're listening to us on the radio, or you've got the radio on at home, we're so glad that you've tuned in. But you can also hear us at dvmercy.com by clicking on the Listen Live button. You can download the smartphone app. Just type in Divine Mercy Radio in your app or Play Store. Or if you have an Amazon Echo, you can say, Alexa, enable the Divine Mercy Radio skill, if you want to hear us from the Lindsborg Salina station, or Alexa, enable the Divine Mercy Radio skill KMDG if you'd like to listen from the Hayes station. After the skill is enabled, you can say, Alexa, play Divine Mercy Radio if you're in the Lindsborg Salina area, or Alexa, play Divine Mercy Radio KMDG for the Hayes station. You can also watch us live on Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube. And I understand that the first 4 hours of today's Carathon will be uploaded to YouTube within the next few hours. So we are very excited and thankful to Hickok Steakhouse for giving us, just presenting us with a wonderful lunch today. All of us who are here volunteering, as well as some of our priests, were able to eat a delicious meal this afternoon, and that was donated by, again, Hickok Steakhouse, Oscar Runyon, Greg Whitehair, and Damon Hoare owners. So we are very appreciative to them for a delicious meal. Before we get into our interview, I do have a trivia question for the top of the hour, and I also want to share with you some of the donations that have come in over the lunch hour. Our 12 o'clock radio trivia question is, if people are buried in cemeteries and a collection of statues is called a statuary, then why do people go to a seminary? Is the answer A, to study to be a priest, B, to study to become a monk, C, to study to become a canon lawyer, or D, all of the above? So again, the question is, if people are buried in cemeteries and a collection of statues is called a statuary, then why do people go to seminary? Is the answer A, to study to become a priest, B, to study to become a monk, C, to study to become a canon lawyer, or D, all of the above? Give us a call at 621-4110 if you have an answer to that trivia question or would like to make a donation. Now, a couple of the donations that came in over the lunch hour, we heard from Oliver and Caitlin Beal. They donated $100. We also heard from Marion Mengi, who happens to be Father Brian McCaffrey's grandmother, and she was calling us from the Topeka area, and she donated $100. So we appreciate them listening. We appreciate their support, and it looks like we just got a winner with our trivia question, Mrs. Shirley Dinkle. She called in and knew the answer to our trivia question was, the reason you go to a seminary is to study to become a priest. Great job, Mrs. Dinkle. We're so grateful that you're listening to us today. All right. So today our first guest this afternoon is Father Damian Richards. He has been a priest for over 30 years and has served in 17 parishes across the Diocese of Salina. Currently, Father Damian is the pastor of St. Nicholas of Myra Parish in Hayes and St. Francis of Assisi Parish in Munger, and he is also the chaplain for Engaged Encounter in the Diocese of Salina. So welcome, Father Damian.
Hello, good to be here.
He is going to talk to us. Now, I love this title of this topic because it reminds me very much of Indiana Jones. But his title of his presentation today is Rome Bound, the Quest for a Holy Relic. Yep. So, Father, do you want to give us a little bit of information about this exciting adventure that you're going to be on, and then we can go into some of the specifics?
Okay. Well, first off, just to start with it, I am going to be taking a pilgrimage to Italy, November 2nd through 12th this year. And we'll be visiting, kind of hitting all of the greatest points, doing the greatest hits of cities in Italy. And if you're interested in joining us on the tour, contact me at St. Nicholas Parish. We'll be happy to send out the information to you and all that. And we're going in November because the crowds are smaller. It's the end of the tourist season, so there aren't as many crowds. And the temperatures are much better because, as I'm fond of pointing out, Rome in August is Kansas in August. And they don't believe in air conditioning. So, don't go in August. You want to go later in the year. Yeah. So hope everybody can join us for this. And this whole thing started, it was like 2 years ago, of St. Nicholas really doesn't have any relics. You go over to Victoria, oh my gosh, all the relics they've got there. St. Joseph's has relics, and Munger has relics. And it's like, well, St. Nick's, well, we don't have anything. And, well, what can we do? And so I heard, it was Father Brian Lager pointed this out, that there's a thing called St. Nicholas Manna, and that you can ask permission to get the relic. And so it's like, well, let's start investigating this, and contacted Corey Lyon at the diocese. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, there are ways you can request relics. And it took about a year because it moves on Rome time. And they don't have stress-related illnesses in Italy. They're never in a rush. And so about a year or so after, we finally got a letter from Barry, which is where St. Nicholas's remains are, saying that the parish St. Nicholas has been granted a relic. you can't buy it.
Right.
They're very specific on that. You can't buy or sell relics, but they would give us one.
Oh, wow.
But along with the note of we would be happy to give you a relic was we cannot ship it. We can't send it through the mails because it's in a very delicate thing.
Mhm.
So whenever you can come and pick it up, that would be fine. And that's where it all started. It's like, well, I wonder if anybody else might be interested in coming along with me to pick up the relic. And right now we got 30 other people
Wow.
that are interested in coming to help pick up the relic. So it's been a very good response to it.
Excellent.
And so that's where it all started, was St. Nicholas needs a relic because we got to keep up with St. Joseph and Victoria.
Definitely not a competition.
Yeah, but it's a good competition because it's
Yeah.
like, how many holy relics can we have?
Right. Well, explain to us, what is this manna of, because we
St.
think
Nicholas-
manna,
It's manna in the desert.
The desert, yeah.
That's where it comes from. What the manna is, it's an oil or a water that comes out of St. Nicholas's grave. It oozes out of the tomb, and they collect it, and it doesn't produce very much over the course of a year, but they collect it and then they put it in little jars. And in the Middle Ages, it was used for healing properties. That's what it was used for. And so they have this very nice little jar of manna,
Mhm.
and they have a special hand blown glass container for it.
Wow.
And so I have a feeling that's why we're not going to ship this because we don't want it to break.
Right.
And so I get to worry about it on a plane. But that's where it is it's that manna. They'll also sell, it's like they'll sell you water that's diluted manna.
Okay.
Like water that has like a drop of it in it, and then you can take that home with you and then use it for personal devotion, variation on Lourdes water,
Right.
Fatima water, things like that.
So what was the process? You contacted our chancery. Does this get approved by the Pope? Who approves this?
Well, they send it to Barry,
Uh-huh.
to the place where the relic is,
Okay.
and then Barry decides whether we're worthy to have it or not. So that's why you got to go through your bishop.
I see.
It's got to come from a bishop. It can't come from, I'm some guy who decided that it'd be cool to have some manna.
Mhm.
Like, no, because they're under an obligation to make sure that if they give out a relic, that it gets treated with respect.
Sure.
And so a bishop would request it. And so Bishop Binky is the one who formally requested it.
Okay.
And we had to translate it into Italian and
So quite a process.
then mail the letter. You couldn't just send an email. You had to
Right.
mail a physical letter and all this
Oh, wow.
in order to get it. That's why one of the reasons it took forever.
Okay. So then, for people who are not familiar with St. Nicholas of Myra, can you tell us where Myra is or was, and now how did he end up in Bari, Italy?
Bari, Italy. Well, Nicholas of Myra is from Myra, which is in Turkey, modern day Turkey.
Mhm.
And because that's where he was born, and all the stories and all the legends you have of St. Nicholas, the
Yeah.
3 bags of gold and him rescuing the 3 little boys that he was resurrected from the dead, and the 3 soldiers that he saved from being executed
Mhm.
for a crime they didn't commit. All that happened in Turkey.
Yeah.
And Nicholas lived in the 300s and was bishop there. And then he died, 400s or thereabouts, 300s, 400s. The story is that he was at the Council of Nicaea. And I always love he got mad, and Arius was there, and Nicholas got mad at him and punched him. And it's a wonderful story.
And if any of you have had the opportunity to listen to Father Damian tell the saint stories, I work with the kids at St. Nicholas and St. Joseph with their faith formation program. And this is a very popular storytelling experience. They get to listen to the story of St. Nicholas. Is wonderful.
But all of that stuff happened in it was Turkey, or when Nicholas was alive, it was the eastern half of the Roman Empire. Because in the 300s, the empire had split into half. It was too big and too cumbersome for it to be run by one emperor in one city. And so there was an emperor, there were 2 emperors, and there were co-emperors. There was one in Constantinople, and there was one in Rome. And then the guy in Rome moved to Milan in the 400s. So there were 2 guys. So the eastern half and the western half. and he was in the eastern half.
Yeah.
Now, if you know your medieval history, in 700s or in the 700s, Muhammad had a vision and wrote down the Quran, and then the Islamic conquest began, starting in the Middle East, starting in like Saudi Arabia or modern day Saudi Arabia, and then worked its way throughout the Middle East. And that's where the Crusades came from, is because the Muslims took over the Holy Land and Christians from Europe came to the Holy Land in order to reconquer. But part of what they were doing, the Muslims were conquering through Asia Minor, modern day Turkey. And the Roman Empire on the east, and the Orthodox and the Eastern Empire was getting smaller and smaller because of this. And in the year 1087, the Muslims had conquered Bari. And so that was where conquered, they didn't take over Bari, they took over, they took over Myra. And because they took over Myra, Christians were getting nervous of, well, will we still be able to go and venerate the relics of the martyrs? Will we still be able to go and worship there or not? And there was some doubt, because other places they said, sometimes the Muslims said, yes, you can come. Other times the Muslims said, no, you can't. So they were a little nervous about it. And so the Christians from Venice and the town of Bari, Venice is in the northern part of Italy and was a maritime sea power, got its money by trading. And Bari was in the southern part of Italy on the Adriatic. And it also made its money through trade. So they decided, Christians decided, well, we're going to go take the relics. And so that's what they did, is that they went over to Myra and they stole the relics. Now, there are several stories about it, that did they steal them or did they take them for safekeeping? And it was probably a bit of both. The image I love to use is that if you've read Kansas history, the county seat wars, how people would have fights and riots over where the county seat would be, where the courthouse would be. Well, they did that with relics in the Middle Ages.
Oh, wow.
The cities would fight over who got to have the relic of this famous saint. And because people would want to go and see the relic and they'd want to pray with the relic. And well, as long as we're in town, we got to have a place to stay. We got to have a place to eat. We got to eat. And we might as well pick up some souvenirs and trinkets while we're here. And so it was a monetary thing to get them to come here. So like I said, it was a bit of both for with the tomb. Let's see. Oh, here it is. This is the story about it. In 1087, sailors and merchants from Bari came to Myra, and they visited the tomb of St. Nicholas, and the monks who were there showed them, and here's where the manna comes out and everything else. And the sailors then asked, so where exactly is the body? And the monks showed them, but the monks became suspicious. Surely you do not intend to take the saint's remains with you. If so, we won't allow it. However, in the end, the Barians prevailed, and they broke open the tomb with an iron bar, and they carried the bones away into a ship.
Wow.
And the natives were, the local people were very upset, to say the least. And put a pin in that. That becomes important later. There's a story later with that. And then they arrived in Bari on May 9th in the year 1087, and the townspeople made this big deal about, we have the relics of St. Nicholas now, and they formally installed them in their in the basilica that's there. The Pope Urban II, formally laid the relics to rest there and consecrated the shrine. And so, this was a big deal. And so that's how they got over there, is people just came in and took them. And a couple of stories I've read says that Nicholas showed the people of Myra that this was okay. He gave them a vision and said, no, this is right, that I go over to Italy now.
Yeah.
And so that way people made it a shrine.
So his bones, his remains were secreting this manna before he even, before they even buried him in Bari.
Yeah.
And so have they tested this? I mean, I know, you think the Shroud of Turin, you think of the, Our Lady of Guadalupe image. Scientists are just crawling all over each other to try to test this stuff. Have they done any of that, and what have they determined, if
Well,
anything?
they have done it, and this was in the night. They would examine. We have a couple of things. They did chemical analysis of the manna in like 1910 and 1925,
Wow.
and they broke out what it is, and it's mainly water. The other thing that they were wondering is like, okay, well, where's the water coming from? And well, Barry is right there on the coast,
Right.
and so must be seawater or groundwater is getting into the tomb, and that's what's coming out. And they said, no, the tomb is sealed. Like, this is not groundwater. This is water that's coming from inside the tomb.
Oh, wow.
And then in the 1950s, they had to do some reconstruction of the tomb because 1087 was the last time.
Right.
And so, 800 years later, it's like, well, it needs some work. So they exhumed the remains, put them in a glass jar, and then that way you could view the remains. Francis's remains were exposed like at the beginning, because we're on the 800th anniversary of Francis's passing.
Right.
And so they exposed his bones too for people to venerate. Well, in the 1950s, they did the same thing with St. Nicholas. And in the glass jar, water would ooze out of the bones. And it was the same stuff. It was the same manna.
Right.
So they really don't know how it's getting there or how it's coming out, but it's like, well, it's a water with some chemicals in it.
And does it happen year round? Is it just at a certain time?
Well, no, it's not like Januarius's blood.
Right.
Januarius's blood is like it happens once a year.
Yes.
Or maybe happens once a year. It depends.
Yeah.
But no, this is like it's always excreting. It's not coming out very fast. There's not a lot of it, but that's what's coming out. And let's say, what is it? Oh, and another fun thing about it, because they exhumed the bones, right? And they wanted to we have them. We know how to do forensics. You can examine a bone and you can tell things about the person based on the bone. And so the bones that they had, it was a man. There were the bones of a man in his mid-70s. And they could also tell that this was a man who lived, he had mainly a vegetarian diet, which would fit because Nicholas wasn't much for show or fancy living or anything like that.
Right.
So you could imagine him just getting by on vegetables and it'd be fine. There were also signs of imprisonment, signs of stress on the bones. And they figured that came from, which is Nicholas was imprisoned during the persecutions under the Emperor Diocletian. So he was in prison then. And so, that would fit that he was confined to that. And so all of those things, it matched up to, they even have like how tall he was. Let's see if I can find it. But it's like he's like 5.5 feet tall, which is actually, here it is, 860. Yeah, it was 75. He was over 70 years of age. It was average height, so it was 5 feet 5 inches. Shoulders would have been 15.5 inches wide, 33-inch waist. So
very detailed.
Yeah, very well. With bones, you can do that.
Right.
And so it's like that's what they could tell from it. And one thing about it is, where is it? This is the note. The skeleton, bones were very fragile. There were a lot of fragments because you remember how they got the bones, which was they pried open the tomb and just grabbed stuff and ran. That's what they did. And so many of them were fragmented. They kept the skull was in very good shape because it's very easy to say, oh my God, this is the skull. We're going to hold this.
Right.
The other ones, they just kind of threw in. And how they, one vertebrae showed a slice of bone had been removed with a cut from a sharp knife, pulling things out. We just got to pry it out. So they grabbed a knife and they pried it out
and damaged the bones.
And so it all kind of fits together about, those are really his bones. And the best part is that in the 1950s, when they were doing this stuff, it was very important then that the church wanted to show the historicity of the church and that we're not afraid of science, we're afraid of discovery. And so that was when Paul VI, was Pius XII or Paul VI? Oh, it was Pius XII started it, that they found the bones that they thought were the bones of St. Peter. Traditional said these are the bones of St. Peter because they were underneath the tomb of St. Peter.
Mm-hmm.
And so he allowed them to be examined in the 1950s. And they came back with man in his 70s, 2,000-year-old bones.
Right.
And so science proved, in terms of science, that's as much as you can prove. It's like science backs up the tradition. And so and also they did the same thing with Paul's bones as well at St. Paul's outside the walls, both places we're going to be visiting on my tour, by the way.
Nice plug.
Sales always be closing, always be
go.
selling. But they did that with Peter, they did that with Paul, and so it makes sense that they would do that with Nicholas at the same time. Of the church is not afraid of science, and we are people of history.
Mm-hmm.
And one notable thing at St. Mary Major, which is another church we'll be going to, tradition said that a icon that was there was painted by St. Luke.
Oh,
that
wow.
Luke painted it from life. He asked Mary to sit down and may I paint your picture? And that was according to tradition. And so they examined, Pius gave permission to have that icon examined. And it came out that icon was made in like the 5th century.
Ah, okay.
And they said, no, it was made in the 5th century. It wasn't it wasn't painted by St. Luke.
Wow.
But so there's a little disclaimer. You go into St. Mary Major, and we'll be going. You can go in and see the icon, and there's a little disclaimer, icon from the 5th century. It says that.
Very good.
But still, it's a very old icon, and people have been honoring Mary with it.
Right. So, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, you are listening to the Divine Mercy Radio Spring Carathon. Our theme this year or this spring is Behold, I Make All Things New. And we are definitely talking about old things being made new and being brought to new parts of the world here with Father Damian. Our goal this Spring Carathon is to raise $125,000 toward the operating costs for the radio station. We started the day with $30,150 in matching funds toward that $125,000 goal. And I was just notified that we have $24,000 in matching funds left. So you have the opportunity to make a donation and essentially double your money. So dollar for dollar, your donation will be matched. If you have the means to give us the full $24,000, we would be eternally grateful. But if you can give us even something smaller, $5, $10, $100, whatever it is in your capacity to give, we would love to receive that donation from you. We did just receive a donation, a $250 donation from an anonymous donor. So whoever just called in to donate that $250, please know of our appreciation. And we pray as a board, we pray every month for our donors, and we thank you very, very much for your generosity. Again, we still have a little less than $24,000 left in matching funds. If you would like to make a donation toward our $125,000 goal, you can give us a call at 785-621-4110. Again, that is 785-621-4110. You can also donate online at dvmercy.com. Again, that is dvmercy.com. And as we're very close to the bottom of the hour, I'm going to go ahead and share the 12:30 trivia question. So the question is, why is the book of Genesis named Genesis? A, because that's the way it is. B, that's the last sentence of the book. C, that's in the first sentence of the book. Or D, we don't have the original translation. So why is the book of Genesis named Genesis? A, because that's just the way it is. B, that's in the last sentence of the book. C, that's in the first sentence of the book. Or D, we don't have the original translation. So if you know the answer to that question, give us a call at 785-621-4110. You can also text that same number, 785-621-4110. 4110 if you have a question for Father Damian or for any of our on-air guests over the course of the next 4 days. But again, if you have that trivia answer, please give us a call. And if you want to make a donation, you can call that same number or donate online at dvmercy.com. So this hour, we are speaking with Father Damian Richards, and we are talking about his quest for a holy relic. He is going to be Rome bound later this year to pick up we have to they can't mail it, so he's picking it up in person.
Yep.
But a relic of Saint Nicholas of Myra, so that the the parish that follows his name can have one of his very own relics. Now this is a little bit of a different situation, but can you discuss a little bit about Pope Francis and how he let relics go to Russia, I guess is the way it worked, here a few years ago, about 2017.
Yeah. And this is, remember how they pretty much, the people from Barrie just walked in, took the relics and left.
Yes.
Like this is where we're coming back to that. In 2017, or no, it was 2016, Pope Francis met with the Moscow Patriarch, who's the head of the Orthodox Church in Moscow. And Moscow is like the main Orthodox Church. But they met in Havana, Cuba. I don't know why Havana, but they met in Havana in February. And during that meeting, Francis offered to have some of the relics of Saint Nicholas travel to Russia, so that way people could venerate the relic. And they enthusiastically agreed to it. And in 2017, they allowed was a rib fragment was taken from Barrie, flown to Russia, and so they were able to do a veneration there, and it went around Russia and tour.
Eventually returned to Barrie?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
I thought, this is why I'm glad I researched, because I thought all the relics were gone. I thought Pope Francis gave it back to Myra, but I misheard, and it was, no, he loaned it to the Moscow Patriarch, so that way could see it. And so that's what it was doing, there.
And do they have throughout Russia, do they have other relics of saints that they are able to venerate there that maybe?
Oh yeah, they've got stuff.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Although
this was just one they hadn't had.
Well, part of it is, they didn't have the relic. Saint Nicholas is a very popular saint in the Orthodox tradition. And so this was a great gesture of goodwill that, we want to bring the East and the West together. Sure. And so let us be united in our veneration of a common saint. And so that's one of the reasons why Pope Francis wanted to do that, was to bring it back. A lot of relics in Russia got destroyed during the Communist Revolution, though, for them to come back, to be able to come back for that.
So the manna that you are going to go get, let me ask you this. Number one, they just hand it over to you? Is there a ceremony?
Oh, funny you should mention
I don't know how this works.
Funny you should mention that, because I was, after I got the tour arranged, and you can still go online, and please give me a call if you're interested in the tour. But I was emailing, I sent an email to the church in Barrie, and I had to run it through Google Translate. I used very simple declarative sentences in English so that the translation didn't get screwed up too much, and sent him an email. In February, I sent an email saying, we will be in Barrie on November 8th. Would that be a good date to pick up the relic? Because I know Italy, and we're closed that day, and there's nothing we can do. So I really wanted to make sure they knew that we were coming on this day, and so to make sure we could get there. And in February, I sent him an email, and I hadn't heard anything. And then, so last week, I sent another email doing a follow-up, because I'm German and they're Italian, and sent another email saying, I sent you regarding my previous email, will this date work for you? And he was in that day. Like the next day, I got an email back, and it's Father Giovanni, and he said that, yes, that date works very well for us. The church, it falls on a Sunday, and so if you can come to Sunday Mass in Barrie on that day, we will hand the relics over to you at that Sunday Mass.
Oh, wow.
So
That's amazing.
yeah,
So they hand it to you. I don't know if there's like a particular rite or ceremony or anything affiliated with that. Do you know what
I'm
that
kind of
will?
curious to find out myself.
You'll find out when you get there.
So I was like, oh, this should be interesting.
And then how do you? I mean, the TSA.
It better be less than, it better be less than 2 ounces.
I was going to say, how are you going to carry this on the plane to get it back?
Well, it's either I put it in my checked luggage,
Uh-huh.
with make sure it's insulated. And,
Right.
Right. So I have no idea. I'm
Okay.
very curious to see how this is going to work. But anyway, they're going to be, it's not just show up, knock on the door. Oh, here you are.
Yeah.
Best of luck. It's like, no, we welcome representatives from St. Nicholas of Myra Church in Hays, Kansas. And here is, from us to you, here is a gift of a relic of St. Nicholas.
Wonderful. And do you have to take credentials with you to prove that's who you are?
Yeah, because I'll need a celebrate letter anyway, because, when you're on tour, we're working on being able to say Mass in as many of these holy sites as we possibly can. On the slow days, we'll say Mass like in a hotel room.
Right.
Everybody will crowd into one room and we'll do it there. But on the good days, Mass at St. Peter's, Mass in Barry,
what an opportunity.
Mass at St. Francis, Mass at the Basilica of St. Francis, things like that. And I also did some digging. They had a list of all the parishes that have relics.
Yes, I was going to ask, where else do we have some of this manna in the United States or other, St. Nicholas relics?
There are 87 churches throughout the world that have relics of St. Nicholas, and 4 of them have manna. There's one in Virginia, which is a Byzantine Catholic church. There's one in Flushing, New York, which is a Greek Orthodox church. They had the manna. And then little old Hays, Kansas, little old Hays, America, we're going to have manna also. In Kiev,
Russia?
In Kiev, Russia, they've got manna there.
Or I guess Ukraine, perhaps.
It's Ukraine,
Yeah.
You want to get a Ukrainian to punch you. Say that it's Russia.
Right.
It's like, no, it's not Russia. It's a different thing.
Yeah.
And so it's not unlike Victoria is a basilica.
Yes.
And it's the only basilica in the state.
Yeah.
So it's this neat little thing that we'll be able to have.
And do you have a spot located already picked out for it?
Yeah.
How will you display it if you can give us that information?
Well, what we've got at St. Nicholas in our gathering space, we've got our icon of Christ with Mary and Nicholas. And Alvin Kuhn, parishioner of ours, Father Herbert Kuhn, he has a relic of the True Cross. And Father Herbert gave it to his mom and dad, and when mom and dad passed, Alvin got it, and then Alvin moved into assisted living. And, well, Father, do you want this? Yes, we do. So
that was quite the hit when you brought it around to the faith formation classes.
Yeah. We have a relic of the real cross. And so in our gathering space, there's Christ in the middle, and then facing Christ off to the left, we have the relic of the True Cross. We had a reliquary, a handmade. We had a reliquary locally built so that we can put it there. And then we're going to have a reliquary to match to go on the other side.
Oh, great.
And then we'll have the manna displayed in there. That'll
be great.
So they'll be on either side.
Now, unlike, you see things and you get holy water and it kind of dries out. This manna, it's always liquid. It will always remain retain.
Well, I imagine if you open it up, it'll dry out because it's mainly water. But we don't intend to do that.
Right, exactly.
But we will use it because if we can buy just water that's been blessed with the manna, because there's a diluted version that they'll be happy to sell you. Because I would like to get some of that and then use that in like worship services, healing services, like on the Feast of St. Nicholas to offer a blessing using that manna.
Well, that was another question.
I haven't thought that far ahead, but that would be a cool moment to be able to do.
So how is this manna used in healing services, healing prayers? We had Father Curtis Carlson in a little bit ago talking about the anointing of the sick. I know that's, special oil that's dedicated just for anointing of the sick. So how do you utilize this manna?
Well, I found, it's amazing the stuff you can find online, but I found a prayer for it. And it's this wonderful litany, and set of prayers, and it's what is it? Almighty God, we ask you to comfort us in our infirmities, to increase the faith of those who we raise to you. Implore the great. May this holy manna of Saint Nicholas be like the waters of the pool of Siloam, restoring sight and restoring health. And so then we have the person, they can drink the manna, or it can be applied to the parts of their body. Wow. So
very, very cool. That's something that we don't hear about so often.
No, you don't. And then there's a prayer. It's just, technically it would be a sacramental.
Mm-hmm.
So what Father Curtis was talking about was much more important because it's a sacrament.
Right.
Sacraments are more important than sacramentals.
Yes.
But still, it's a sacramental for healing. Mm-hmm. And, you are going through a rough time. You need comfort and consolation. Well, we'll anoint you with St. Nicholas oil.
Yeah.
St. Nicholas manna in order to ask for his healing power. And does it actually be really good for sick kids? Now that I think about it.
Absolutely.
Well, we got our statue, our great big bronze statue of St. Nicholas. Mm-hmm. When you come into church, is him resurrecting 3 boys who were killed, who were murdered by an evil innkeeper. And I always love to tell that story of baptism because I say, Nicholas is a great patron of children because he'll do anything, even raise them from the dead, in order to take care of them. Yeah. And so to anoint a child with St. Nicholas manna, St. Nicholas watch over and protect this child, that'd be very special. That'd be a neat thing. I'm not sure how to. I'll figure out a way.
We're bringing all sorts of ideas up here.
Well, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take just a quick break and remind everybody that we do have a trivia question that as of yet has not been answered. So the trivia question for the bottom of the 12 o'clock hour is, why is the book of Genesis named Genesis? A, because that's the way it is. B, that's the last sentence in the book. C, that's in the first sentence of the book. Or D, we don't have the original translation. So why is the book of Genesis named Genesis? Because that's the way it is. B, that's in the last sentence of the book. C, that's in the first sentence of the book. Or D, we don't have the original translation. So if you give us a call at 621-4110, let us know the answer to that question. You can also, when you call that number, you can make a donation to help us reach that $125,000 goal. We started the day with just over $30,000 in matching funds. And as of a few minutes ago, we still had a little under $24,000 in matching funds available. So every dollar you donate today will be matched dollar for dollar. You'll be able to double your donation essentially. And we would appreciate any donation you are able to give to help us further the mission of Divine Mercy Radio. So again, you can make those pledges by calling 785-621-4110, or you can donate online at dvmercy.com. The money raised helps us keep this radio station and all of our affiliate stations on the air. And it gives us the opportunity to come to you 2 times a year with these amazing interviews over the course of 4 days. And today, our first interview of the afternoon is with Father Damian Richards, who is going to be making a pilgrimage over to Rome here later this year to receive a holy relic of St. Nicholas of Myra. Now, as we get back into our conversation, I want to switch gears just a little bit. And you mentioned the 800th anniversary of St. Francis, and I know Father Curtis also mentioned that a little bit in his conversation with me. Tell us a little bit about that and what that all entails and why that's a special opportunity or occasion for us.
Well, they named it as a Jubilee year because of the 800th. Pope Leo, just after the old Jubilee ended, he named it a Jubilee for St. Francis. And of course, that's the beautiful connection is the Capuchins here in Ellis County. And so this wonderful witness of faith of we're going to go over and see the places where Francis lived. And then that's a connection, of course, with our Capuchins. One cool thing I realized, because we'll be we won't be able to see Francis's remains, but we will be able to see Clare's remains.
Wonderful.
Because the Basilica of St. Clare, they buried her underneath. And then again, it was like in the 1950s, they did some excavation and they found the tomb, and they discovered she was an incorrupt.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, and so you can go down and you can look at her. And I remember, did you see the pictures online of Francis's remains when they brought him out?
I probably did, yeah.
But they were just, it was this square box,
Uh-huh.
like a sandbox thing,
Yeah.
and it was just bones. They put bones roughly where the bones were from the body, but they were just bones. That's all they'd come down to.
Right.
After 800 years, Francis decayed, but after 800 years, Claire did not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just amazing. You maybe you have more insight than I do as to why those things happen.
You don't know. That's part of it. That's what
it's the mystery.
That's what makes it a miracle. It's like we can't explain why this happened.
Yeah.
And so we'll get to see Claire's body and we'll get to see Francis's body. And so all of those stories of St. Francis and giving everything back to his dad.
Yeah. We're
going to be in the town square where that happened. We'll be at the chapel, the convent of San Damiano. We'll be there. We'll take that as a tour. And that's where the cross of San Damiano was, which spoke to Francis and said, Francis, rebuild my church. And that's also where the miracle of the Eucharist happened with Claire. The bandits were trying to break into the convent.
I don't know that story very well.
You don't know that story?
I probably have heard it at some point, but it's not registering. I tell that
story all the time. There were bandits roaming around central Italy, and the convent heard that the bandits were coming, but they were outside the city walls, and so no protection. Right. And the bandits saw that's a convent undefended, and so they decided to attack it. And so they were pounding on the doors trying to get in. And the nuns went to Claire, because she's the superior, do something, because you're the one in charge. What does she do? She's not trained in combat. She doesn't know what to do. So what she did is that she went to the chapel, got the Blessed Sacrament, put the Blessed Sacrament in a monstrance, put the monstrance on this side of the door. They were pounding on the other side to get in. She put it on the floor on this side of the door. And then they all knelt down in prayer. And she said, Lord, watch over these servants of mine, for I cannot protect them.
Oh, wow.
That was the prayer she prayed. And there are different versions of what happened after. Some is the light came out of the monstrance. Other is that they heard a voice, that there was noise on the other side. The voice was, I know I love them and I will always protect them. But no matter which version is there, is that after she made that prayer, the bandits went away.
Incredible.
Either on the human level, they decided it was too much work, so let's just leave. Or on the supernatural level, they realized we won't be able to get in.
Oh my God.
But we will be there where that happened.
That's amazing.
And I tell that story all the time. Go down to Munger.
I will.
And Munger, you look on the high altar, there's Francis in the middle, Anthony of Padua, and then there's Claire, and she's holding this little stick thing with looks like a lantern. It's a monstrance. She's holding the monstrance. That's why she's holding it.
Okay.
Because it protected her. But we're going to see that.
Oh, wow.
We're going to be there for it. We're going to be in the chapel where the cross of San Damiano is.
Wow.
And if you go in there, they even have a sign saying, don't pray out loud in here.
Oh, my goodness.
Because they don't want people thinking, because the cross of San Damiano spoke to Francis.
Right.
Francis, rebuild my church. And so they make a point of don't pray out loud because we don't want to mess with people's heads.
Sure. So, makes perfect sense. Well, where else are you going? So you've got Florence, Assisi, Loretto. Where all are you going?
We fly into Rome. Then we get on a bus and go up to Florence. And Florence, it's Renaissance Italy.
Yes.
And so all the beauty of Renaissance Italy is there in Florence. Very few saints in Florence. They were too busy making money. So we go to Florence, and then we go from Florence down to Assisi. And then that's where we'll see Francis stuff and Claire's stuff. Carlos Acutis is buried in Assisi also. And so I've never been there. I need to see that. Then we'll go down to Loretto. And that's the Holy House of Loretto. And the Holy
Transported,
House
right?
from Ephesus.
Yes.
Yeah, it was Mary's house. and the angels took it from
Ephesus.
yeah, it
Is
was
that right?
from Ephesus to Italy, to Loretto.
Wow.
And once again, this is one of those things. Was this icon really painted by St. Luke?
Right.
The best part I love about the story of the Holy House of Loretto is read A Story of the Soul,
Uh-huh.
Teresa of Lisieux.
Yes.
Okay. Because when she journals about when her dad took her to Rome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They stopped at the Holy House and she journaled about being there in that house.
Oh, wow.
And she was just really soaking in the atmosphere of, I am where the Blessed Virgin was and all that. She was, so that's my selling point.
Yeah.
That's why I want to see it, is because, well, if it's good enough for Teresa Lisieux, it's good enough for me. Okay.
Yeah.
And then San Giovanni Rotondo.
Uh-huh.
You know who's there? They have pictures of him out here. There's a relic of it at St. Francis at Victoria.
Well,
Padre Pio.
Oh, okay.
That's where Padre Pio lived.
All right.
And his tomb is there. And so we will see the tomb of Padre Pio.
Okay.
Which is, again, another nice connection to Victoria in Ellis County, because they have a relic of Padre Pio at Victoria. And so we're going to be part of that. We're going to see that. And then Monte Cassino, and that's where, and then from San Giovanni Rotondo, that's where we go down to Bari for the day. We spend the night at San Giovanni. It's like 2 days there. One day will be spent driving to Bari and back, so you don't have to unpack. You can leave the clothes unpacked for one day. And Monte Cassino is where Benedict formed his first monastery.
Oh, wow.
That's where the monastery was, and where Scholastica was.
Wow.
And that wonderful story of Benedict and Scholastica, I tell this all the time, of they were twins.
Yes.
And he went to visit her in her convent, and they were having a wonderful visit night. And he said, no, I can't just spend the night because I'm a monk. I got to be back in my monastery. I can't go. And so Scholastica just bowed her head in prayer. And then all of a sudden, this massive thunderstorm came up and nobody could get out. And Benedict looked at Scholastica and he said, sister, what did you do? And she said, well, I asked you if you could stay and you said no. I asked God if you could stay and he said yes.
Oh, I love that.
And so he was, and so it's like, well, okay, you got me.
Isn't it so fascinating? It's so fascinating to see or read about and kind of be taught about these connections that all of these saints had to each other, and some of them, with siblings, but also just, how they overlapped, who was taught by whom, and all of that. That's incredible. So this trip is over how many days, and what do people need to do to get in touch with you or to get involved in this?
11-day trip, November 2nd through the 12th. Flies out of Kansas City. So really the easiest way to do it is call the rectorate, call the St. Nicholas Parish, or call or email us, and we'll be happy to send you the information, the detailed itinerary, and the stuff that you need in order to be able to get on a plane.
Excellent. And what's the deadline?
Final deadline is like Father's Day.
Okay, so June.
Well, what I've been saying, they need airlines need they pay the airlines way ahead of time, so that way they can lock in the good rates, and so they need everything by July 1st.
Sure.
So I'm telling people, well, Father's Day.
Right. Now, I guess one question I failed to ask: have you worked with a tour group to put this together?
Yeah, this was NAWAS is the name of the organization, and I've gone overseas with them before, and they respect the fact that we are going over there to pray, because I've gone on tour guides where it's like the whole concept. You show up, here's the famous building, here's the gift shop, here are the restrooms. You got a half hour to get back on the bus.
Oh,
and but with NAWAS, because I emailed them, I want to be able to offer mass. They said certainly we can accommodate that, and so won't be able to do it every day because of just the way the schedule works out and what churches you're at, but be able to have mass in these various holy sites. They want to accommodate that. They want to be a part of that.
Great.
So,
is there a limit to the number of people that you can take?
No.
Okay. So if anybody is
There's,
interested, you can give
yeah.
Father Damian a call and he'll get you on the.
Yeah, there's a floor. They really want to have like 32.
Okay.
And I'm like too shy. I only need 2 more.
Okay.
And so we're achingly close, but there's no
Yeah.
ceiling. They haven't brought up a ceiling at all
Excellent.
in terms of that.
So if anybody out there is listening and wants to take this 11-day trip to Italy and see all these amazing sites and get all this experience, call Father Damian, call St. Nicholas of Myra.
I will also give you homework, but it'll be good homework because this way you know the story of the saint. Yeah. So that way, when we go into this building, when we go into this town, this is the place where that guy lived. And so it becomes much more alive in you. Because otherwise you go, I don't know, it's an old house. It's very charming. You know, Italy's pretty. Yeah. It was a fancy old building, but right. But if you know, it's like the movie, The Agony and the Ecstasy is how the Sistine Chapel was painted. Mm-hmm. And so you watch the movie, and we're going to go to Rome, to the Vatican. We're going to see the Sistine Chapel. Yeah. And so you know some of the story behind all that went on while this thing got painted and how it got painted. You know, that type of thing. Right. Because you really want to be able to, it really makes it come alive and makes you appreciate it all the more of, oh, I know what's going on in here. Yeah. So also a little bit of Latin. Be good to know a little bit of Latin, like the Latin Our Father, the intro, the Dominus Vobiscum et cum spiritu tuo, a couple of those little intro things, because like at Barry, they ain't going to be saying Mass in English. Yeah, exactly. Because we're not in England, we're not in America, they're in Italy. So they're going to say the main part of it's going to be in Italian, but they'll probably do bits and pieces in Latin. So if you know how to say the Our Father in Latin, all of a sudden, wait a minute, I can pray this. I know this part. So all right. So it's those types of things. I will give you homework, but it'll make the tour come much more alive. It won't just be, I don't know, we saw an old thing. You know, so.
And we got a vial of liquid, right?
Yeah, I don't know. We got this jar, really fancy jar. It's got some water in it.
Yeah, you know, so. Yeah, excellent. Well, again, if anybody is interested in taking this trip to Rome and the various places in Italy that Father and his tour group will be going, please give him a call at St. Nicholas of Myra Parish, and they can get you all the information. Father, before you leave, will you leave us with your priestly blessing, please?
Certainly. Name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Through the intercession of St. Nicholas of Myra and St. Francis of Assisi, may God bless everyone who is listening to this broadcast. Through it all may know the mercy and love of God. In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit.
Amen. Thank you so much for spending the time with us. It was good to talk with you.
Good to talk with you too. Usually we're just going over, so what are we doing this night at CCD?
That's right. That's right. So yeah, this was good to have this conversation with you. Excellent. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have just a little bit under $24,000 left in our matching funds as we kick off this first day of the Divine Mercy Radio Carathon. This spring's Carathon theme is Behold, I Make All Things New. And there have been elements of that rebirth, elements